Hello, friends. This is the first class of the new batch. I've been told that we have to start from the very beginning. I am Dr. Atul Bharadwaj. I am Assistant Professor of ENT in CBPAX, and we'll start. In fact, let me open a PowerPoint for you. Uh, okay, okay. So we'll start with a whiteboard with a brief introduction of the ENT. As per our previous experience and applications, we first start with anatomy of ear, nose, and throat, respectively, and subsequently we'll also compare them with the literature part that is described in Ayurveda and various texts. So uh, in the sequence, we'll start with the otology. With otology, otology stands for the science of ear and its disorders. So science of ear and its disorders. So we'll start with the anatomical sense, and then we'll move on to the disease part, and at last we will look into the literature part of Ayurveda, especially from the Sushruta Samhita, and we'll discuss also all the important disorders which you'll come across in the literature, uh, uh, along with the reference chapter and important shlokas as well. So, uh, as for the commencement, we'll start the anatomy of the ear first. Anatomy of the ear first. So, let me open a PowerPoint app itself. Okay, now we can write onto it. So, s- okay, yes. Okay, this is a pinna. This is the canal and the tympanic membrane. So, what's the tympanic membrane? Tympanic membrane essentially separates the middle ear from the external ear. It's, you can say, it's neither a part of external ear nor a part of the middle ear. It better called as it separates the external ear from the middle ear. And the middle ear again houses the three miniature, very small bones. From lateral to medial will be malleus, incus, and stapes, and the stapes itself vibrate with the foot plate of the stapes, or it is virtually inserted into the internal ear, and uh, reverberates, vibrates into the foot plate, into the oval window. Sorry. So let's start with the external ear. It's also called as concha. It has got various convexities and concavities uh, leading into the canal itself. The various structures present in these are the various topographical or surface landmarks of the pinna. So from superior, all of that this is helix, and opposite to the it will be the anti-helix, a triangular fossa, and this is scaphoid fossa, and this is tragus. Opposite will be the antitragus, and this will be the lobule. So the peculiarity of the pinna lies in the fact that it is devoid of much of a connective tissue. So the skin is obviously keratinized squamous epithelium. Keratinized squamous epithelium is directly adherent to the underlying, strongly adherent to the underlying cartilage. So we have got the skin. In between will be the perichondrium, and underneath the perichondrium will be the yellow elastic proper cartilage itself. So there is no void space. It is not loosely adherent to the underlying cartilage. It is a strongly associated, or rather it is fixed with the underlying cartilage. and we have got a very little of the movement of the skin on top of this cartilage because of very scarce amount of loose connective tissue. So again, these are the surface landmarks, and this leads into the canal. In fact, this yellow elastic cartilage is a single cartilage, and this part of the pinna, the lobule, is not having the cartilage. It is devoid of the cartilage. So the whole of the cephalic or the superior part has got a single cartilage, which which curls on itself, rotates on itself, and to forms a, a canal. The outer canal is obviously a cartilaginous canal, which is extension of the pinna cartilage itself, whereas the medial canal is present in the temporal bone. So the medial part of the canal, middle ear, internal ear, all of these are housed into the temporal bone itself. So let us see, this is a post-auricular groove. It's a groove between the mastoid skin and the this concha itself. Anterior to this tragus will be this area related to the temporomandibular joint itself. So this is posterior part is called the mastoid segment, and there is a origin of two muscles from the tip of the mastoid. These are sternocleidomastoid muscle and posterior belly of the digastric muscle, and superior to this will be the temporalis muscle. There is insertion of the temporalis muscle. So anteriorly it is related to the temporomandibular joint. Sometimes there is a dehiscence also in between the canal skin and the temporomandibular joint itself, which can lead to a congenital fistula or a post-operative or a pathological connection as well. So inferiorly will be the sternocleidomastoid hair, which will be inserted into the medial end of the clavicle itself. So this is again a schematic representation. So outer is the canal. So this canal, the outer is the pinna and medial is the canal. So canal has got two parts. The outer one third is purely a cartilaginous segment. It is not housed in a bone or a temporal bone itself. The outer one third is a is a extension of this pinna cartilage itself. The peculiarity of this cartilage lies in the fact that it has got hair follicles like any other keratinized squamous epithelium. It has got numerous um, uh, wax secreting glands. Wax secreting glands are modified sweat glands, and they are called as pilosebaceous glands. Pilosebaceous or ceruminous glands. The wax is called as cerumen, and the gland is called as cerumeous gland. So they are responsible formation of the wax, but they are present only in the outer one third of the cartilaginous canal. The length of this canal, I mean to say, from pinna to the outer surface of the tympanic membrane is about 24 mm or 2.4 centimeter. So the outer one third is cartilaginous, which is extension of the pinna cartilage, and um, um, has got this wax secreting glands and hair follicles. And while we move from lateral to medial, the this canal constricts, narrowed upon, and this is the most narrow part of the canal itself, which is called a isthmus. Isthmus is the most narrow part of the canal, and medial to this will this two-third part is called as bony part of the bony part of the canal. So it is housed into the temporal bone. So let me show you this a dry skull. So dry skull. So let me orient you. This is the temporal bone. This is a temporal bone. This is zygomatic arch. This is This is maxilla. This is zygomatic bone. This is a condylar process. This is coronoid process. This is angle, body, ramus, and this is mental foramen. This is obviously the frontal bone. This is parietal bone, and posteriorly will be the occipital bone. So in between this frontal and temporal posteriorly will be having the greater wing of the sphenoid. So again, this is the orbital cavity, which is again formed by various bones. Various bones. Superior will be the frontal bone. Laterally will be this zygomatic. Inferiorly will be the maxilla, and the medial wall from anterior to posterior will be formed by the frontal bone. This is frontal process of the maxilla. This is frontal bone, and this is lacrimal bone, anterior lacrimal crest and posterior lacrimal crest. In between these two crests will be the lacrimal bone. And the lacrimal bone houses this lacrimal sac, and the sac opens into the nasal cavity, and extended into the nasal cavity itself with a duct which is called as nasolacrimal duct. So we have got drainage. This is called as a lacrimal apparatus or a drainage pathway. Posterior to the lacrimal bone will be the perpendicular plate of the no, sorry, will be the lamina papyracea or the ethmoid bone, orbital plate of the ethmoid bone. Posterior to that will be the sphenoid bone. So we have got anteriorly frontal process of the maxilla. We have got lacrimal posteriorly. Still posteriorly will be the lamina papyracea. Lamina papyracea, as the word suggests, is a paper thin bone which separates the orbital cavity from the nasal cavity. So this is the lamina papyracea, and posterior to that will be the sphenoid bone, and we have got superior orbital fissure and inferior orbital fissure, superior orbital fissure, inferior orbital fissure. And so this is a brief orientation of the skull itself. This is nasal bone, obviously the nasal bone, and this is a inferior nasal concha or the turbinate itself. So this is maxilla, this is maxillary process, and these are upper teeth. So this bony part of the canal, the medial two-third lies starts from here and terminates into the outer surface of the tympanic membrane. So let me again, if this is more complicated one, so no. So this is again the same repetition of what I have said, and yes. So these are again the surface landmarks. So pinna, the pinna is not only it collects the sound wave. So in some animals we have got huge size of the pinna in order to collect the sound wave, but this is not the primary function of a pinna. The primary function of pinna is to localize the sound, to localize the sound, uh, to localize the sound. Yes, to localize the sound. Yes. So we'll discuss about this